And he just, said, I'm going to pray for you. And he began to pray for me and had a vision of my husband. And he said, your husband is tall and you will see some red in his hair. And I see him, he's looking over you, and you will have 2 children. And, I never thought about it at the time that we actually had our children. And then afterwards I realized, when we stopped, it was like, he was right. The prophecy came true. We had 2 children. And so he also said that the last thing that he would tell you that would confirm that he's the one that God has called you to be with is that he will tell you that he's just come off the field.
And that's the very first thing I said to you.
That is the very first thing you said.
I had a confirmation, but mine was after we met.
Yes,
it was a few days after we met.
Exactly.
We had kind of taken not a break, but I had to go back home, and I think you went back to your home. And when I was at home, my pastor had called me on a Sunday and said, I have to go to this native reserve, and I really want someone to go with me that can, be there in case there's a problem. So he said, I'll buy you coffee, let's go. And it was quite a drive. I think it was like an hour plus drive. And we got out there, we spent the whole afternoon waiting, and the people that were supposed to show didn't show. So he's like, well, let's head home. And on the way home, he said, so you met someone in Toronto? And I went, what? He says, you met someone in Toronto. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I know you met someone in Toronto. She's musically inclined. She's not very tall. She's got dark hair. She's got a great smile. And I think he even described your eye color. And he said, do you have a picture of her? And I'm like, reluctantly in the back of my head, I'm thinking, yeah, but I don't really want to show you. And he's like, where is it? Can I see it? So he pulls the car off to the side of the highway. He says, let me see the picture. And I took it out and I looked at it and I says, you do understand how I'm feeling right now? And he says, I know, but just let me see the picture. And I showed him the picture, and he looked at the picture, and he looked at me, and he says, yeah, that's the picture the Lord confirmed to me that that's the woman you're going to marry. And I was like, wow, great. So now I go back to Toronto and say, guess what? You're marrying me, And, we'd only been seeing each other for like 3 or 4 days, and you're telling me I'm going to marry her.
But while you were away and your pastor was confirming everything, I was with my roommate, and she was in her bedroom doing her devotions, and I was in my bedroom doing my devotions, and she just come out. She said, Laurie, I've got this scripture that I feel the Lord is telling me to give to you. And so she reads me the scripture, and it's Isaiah 62:4. And what Isaiah 62:4 says is, no longer will they call you deserted. Your land shall no longer be desolate, but you will be called Hephzibah, and your land Beulah, for the Lord will take delight in you, and your land shall be married. She didn't know anything about Scott. She didn't know that I had met him. She didn't know anything. But she gave me this scripture. And the interesting thing about it is that it was a real confirmation. So while you were getting a confirmation from your pastor, I was getting another confirmation.
Yeah, and then I also forgot to mention that the day I had to get back to the bus station, was I was in Midland, the bus station was in Barrie, nobody could take me, and I was like, how am I supposed to get back to Toronto? And Tony was one of the guys in our youth group. He called me out of the blue and said, I'm going to Barrie, do you need a ride? And I'm like, well, yeah, that'd be awesome. And he says, fine, I'll pick you up, I'll take you down to the bus station in Toronto. He got me to the bus station, and before I got out of the car, he grabbed my arm, and he looked at me and he goes, the Lord just spoke to me and said, the lady you met in Toronto, you're going to marry. She's going to be your wife. Man, my jaw hit the floor. And I got on the bus to go back to Toronto. And the whole way back to Toronto, I'm going, I'm going to marry this woman. She doesn't know it, but I'm going to marry her. She's going to be my wife. And she hasn't even said yes yet. And it was like, wow, this is going to be some trip.
Worship with us at any of our branches where you would be welcomed with warmth and love. The HarvestWays International Church, Holloway Hall, Lay Hill, Northfield, Birmingham, England. B311TT. Telephone country code 44 785 467 5159. Sundays at 12 p.m. and Friday Bible study at 7 p.m. Thank you for listening to today's broadcast. Please take time to visit our website and order any of our books at HarvestWays.org. We deliver around the world. You may also support this ministry on the same website, HarvestWays.org, by clicking the Sow a Seed button. Connect with Reverend Sammy on Facebook and Twitter, searching for Sammy O. Joseph. This broadcast has been paid for by the Sammy Joseph Ministries. We thank you for your generous support.